I had back.
Wow.
So Paul, that's sort of the connection, I think, between the rigor of an exercise routine or physical routine and
Other aspects of
performance,
your lives, yeah. It's powerful.
other aspects of your life.
It's powerful.
They're inextricably linked.
Yeah, they are. They are. They are. It's
They're
powerful.
inextricably linked because, think about it, Paul. All the things that keep you from success, quote unquote, or accomplishments, things like procrastination or just sort of laziness
Yeah.
or lack of focus. A lot of those things you have to deal with every time you walk into the gym.
That's right. That's right.
You have to be focused. You have to get rid of the lethargy. All the excuses. You can't procrastinate. So if you literally force your body to do that every day,
Yeah. Oh my God,
your
this conversation is
neural
beautiful.
pathways start to change.
That's right.
So that when you are confronted with a challenge that is one outside of the gym, be it in business or your studies or what have you, those neural pathways are still functioning
Yes.
and they
No,
take over.
it's true. That's why someone said that.
So in many ways, physical training is just it's not just training your mind, your body. It's really the body is just the manifestation, but what you're really training is the
Is your
mind.
mind. Wow. Wow. Someone said that the heaviest weight is the door of the gym.
Once you can crank that,
That's
once you can get past that,
wow,
you can
Mr.
get past
Okay.
that. The rest is a
This
business.
has been a fascinating, my goodness, fascinating conversation. Wow. Lastly, you joined BlackRock in 2003. You work with the great
Yes,
Larry Fink. Man,
that is
this
right.
dude, you
And
work with legends, man.
Ralph Schlossstein.
My goodness.
Larry was the boss, and Ralph was a favorite of mine. Was
What
his
was it like to work with people that want to take over the world from the get-go? They
well,
ain't
look,
playing, man.
BlackRock at the time was it wasn't the BlackRock of today.
Yeah.
BlackRock was a boutique back then.
Mm-hmm.
This was the early 2000s, so there was a proliferation of boutiques. You had Blackstone, obviously KKR had been around for a while. A few private equity shops here and there, a few hedge funds here and there. So it was coming out of the 90s, which was dominated by the large bulge bracket firms. A lot of the guys who were at the top of these bulge bracket firms, Wall Street firms, they were leaving to start all this essentially a cottage industry, private equity, hedge funds, what we call alternative finance today. And Larry and Ralph both were working for Steve Schwarzman at Blackstone. And Steve Schwarzman, who was the founder of Blackstone, said, Larry and Ralph, you run my asset management business, because they were primarily a private equity firm. But they had some money, that, let's say, cash. They would just, it was started as a treasury for Blackstone to manage their excess cash. So it was Blackstone Asset Management. But it wasn't really, it was, like I said, they were basically using them as treasurers to manage their cash. So Ralph and Larry said, listen, Steve, why don't we buy you out, right? Why don't we buy out? Why don't we carve out this small Blackstone Asset Management and just let's go do our own thing?
Yeah.
That's how BlackRock was started.
Whoa.
So they went out. I think they got some money from PNC Bank and some other, basically to help them to buy the firm out from Steve Schwarzman. And they set up shop, and then they basically started as a bond shop, managing bonds, liquidity instruments for banks, pension funds, and so on and so forth. And so when I was there, we didn't even manage equities at the time. Our main clients were agencies, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, a lot of governmental or sort of quasi-governmental institute that issued a lot of bonds. So because our strength was quantitative analysis. We had sort of all this very complicated sort of sophisticated analytics tools. We had a lot of PhDs from MIT, from Princeton, in physics
Wow.
that were sitting there and developing all this sort of quantitative tools to analyze
The
liquidity,
market.
duration, things like building these models. And so our job was essentially to figure out how to make, how to sort of take that load of managing liquidity away from these large institutions. And that's how BlackRock started. And so as they became more successful with that, managing short bonds, liquidity instruments, near-term maturity bonds, treasuries, and so on and so forth, as they became more and more successful and attracted more capital, they sort of branched into other areas like equities and commodities and real estate and all whatnot. And then they started acquiring, how they really grew was they started acquiring State Street and, the other one and then the other one. And then they just literally not overnight, but over a period of time became a behemoth.
So they compounded.
Yeah. But at the time I was there, I mean, we might have been 200 people. It was a small boutique. This might have been 200 people total, the whole firm. Today it's tens of, who knows, maybe 10,000 people.
Wow. Wow. Fascinating. This is a good way to end this conversation. I want to say really, really big thank you to you. Big, 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 big thank you to you. And the power of the internet for bringing us together. So if people want to read more about you, check you out more, where's the best platform you want to send? But of course, I'm going to put Ask Okey website in the show notes of the website of the podcast. Where else would you want them to go to?
Well, look, Paul, I have yet to write a biography, so I'm sorry to disappoint you. I haven't written a biography yet, but I think if you're resourceful, you could probably piece together a synthetic biography of Prof through several sources.
Yeah.
We do have a YouTube channel,
Yes,
of course.
very good.